Hi, my name is Karan Wadhwa. I'm on the Chai with Champs podcast with Ritika Agarwal.
Welcome to the Chai with Champs podcast. This is the center stage for South Asian cinema. I'm your host, Ritika Agarwal, and I'll be sitting down with Oscar-nominated producers, award-winning directors, actors, composers, influential film critics, and more who are shaping the future of South Asian cinema. Chai with Champs is sponsored by Sunblue Sound, a visionary audio production company that specializes in post-sound for visual media. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Chai with Champs podcast, Season 3. I'm here with a very cool and exciting guest, Karan Wadhwa. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Very nice to meet you in person. I appreciate you inviting me on.
Of course.
Can I say something controversial before we start?
That's the best way to start this episode.
Okay. I don't like chai. I know it's not supposed to be said in our community, but I don't know. I don't get it. But, maybe I should try it again. I don't know.
Okay, so this is controversial too. I don't drink chai.
Really? But the name, okay, you got the placards, you got the...
I've got everything to do with chai. I think it's just such a cool concept because everything I did at home, like growing up, it would always be like chai pe charcha. Everybody would like come to the table, have chai. I wouldn't be drinking it.
Yeah.
It would just be all the conversations around it. So at least we're on the same page about it.
That's fair. I was a big Bonvita guy.
Okay.
Up. That was, have you ever had that? Yeah.
I was given Complan because I'm a short girl and I was told to grow taller.
That's better than, there was Boost, there's Horlicks.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
And then there's Bonvita. I think Bonvita is the top.
Yes, absolutely. It's the absolute best.
Yeah.
Next time, Bonvita in your cup.
Okay, absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, I love that we start on that note, but can you tell our audience, apart from chai and Bonvita, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, I am a filmmaker. I'm a writer and director. I specialize mostly in commercials and music videos and digital ad films. And I've also spent some time in the Indian film industry as well, doing a variety of different things. So it's just one big journey of trying to create something that will hopefully live past me, I guess. That's the whole goal, right?
Yeah.
We try to do some things that are more or less timeless, we try to, at least.
Yeah.
So that's the summary of it all.
I love that. I'm excited to dive more into everything that you've done and all your cool stories. But take me back to your early days. Who was Karan Wadhwa before the films and the cameras, and what drew you towards storytelling?
So I was actually born in India. I lived there not very long. My Hindi is very, very bad. And then I lived a little bit in Santiago, Chile. But I ultimately grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, which I don't know. Have you spent time in Nashville?
Barely.
Okay. All right. Just outside of Nashville is where I grew up. So it was very, very different from LA, and it was one of those places where I think it gave me a very unique perspective on life and just seeing different walks of life. I think I'm very thankful for that. I also just after that I always wanted to work in some form of visual form of storytelling. I got really into photography when I was in high school, which is ultimately what led me on the path of, wanting to become a storyteller through a visual form.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's so cool. I think growing up in Nashville, first of all, being in different parts of the world and then coming to Nashville, influence your childhood in any way where you were I want to be drawn towards visual form of arts? What was that first inclination? Was it high school or was it even before that? And did your parents play a role?
Yeah, it was definitely photography that really drew me to that. I took a photography class in all throughout high school. And I was really just obsessed with being in and around the camera. And just being able to be in my own world with it. If you've ever taken a photography class in high school or college, one of the coolest parts of it is the darkroom experience. Because you're just in there, you're just trying to see what comes out of it. You're getting a little high off of the chemicals sometimes. It's just, part of it. And I was able to then really get into filmmaking because I think it's so ingrained in our culture. But I really credit my dad. He was, he's a big film buff. We have no connections in film, as a family.
Yeah.
But he was just always showing me, films that we should know growing up. I remember even now just thinking about it, because you asked the question 15 or so years ago, First time I watched The Godfather, it was like a whole day that we spent, watching the whole trilogy and everything. And I just remember that being such a big influence on, and of course, Indian film as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this, by the way, because I know that you're a big Indian film person. We have just meeting for the first time today, but we've talked.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite Indian movies?
Oh my gosh, this is such a loaded question. It's so hard to pick. My favorite Indian Hindi films that I absolutely love. Some of them are cliches like Z and MD's and Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. I love Queen. I think that's a very underrated film.
So good.
Wake Up Sid. Absolutely love. Also so relatable. Especially in your 20s when you're like figuring things out. And the classics, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. I feel like those are Jab We Met. All of these classics come to mind when I think of the films that like I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you hit those really well. I think Wake Up Sid was a big one for, I think that came out in 2009.
Yeah, around that time.
So I was 14. How old were you then?
11.
Am I allowed to ask that? All right, yeah. So that was like those films were so monumental as milestones of even growing up in a place that, in Tennessee, we would still have Indian movies, but there would be an event. Like we would, all go out on the weekend and all these kids you grew up with and these aunties and uncles, you would go to see that one movie that week. And I remember those little moments were what helped me wanting to get into film.
Yeah.
ZNMD was definitely one of them. Wake Up Sid was definitely one of them, especially the photography and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. For you, it must have hit home.
Yeah. I think I remember even like Dawn. Yes. I wasn't a big fan of it, but I remember that one was, those milestones helped me, cultivate who we wanted to be and how we wanted to see the world, which I think was really fun.
And I'm sure I feel like I relate with you on that aspect of like growing in different parts of the world. So did I. And I think movies just become your escapism in so many ways. And it keeps you closer to your culture and your roots. I think like my first 4 or 5 years, I learned about India more so because of the films that I was watching and the characters that were either mainstream, but also had such a strong sense of being themselves and coming home to themselves, right? So I think they influence you as a person, but they also influence you in the kind of career choices you want to make. And I think that also drew me towards film. So I feel like there's that relatability factor. And a lot of people that I've spoken to who want to be in film kind of have that same kind of journey, which is interesting.
Exactly. It's a connection to the root. And also, I would say that I could say this in my case, growing up, as an Indian American, a lot of the Indian Americans that found their way here as first generation or second generation, they're inherent risk takers.
Yeah.
And I think there's also something to be said about those who want to get into film are probably stupid like me, but they're also risk takers in a way.
1000%.
Right. And it's so you want to sort of hold on to the roots, like you mentioned, but you also want to take these risks. So these movies that we get to escape into, usually about the hero or going out and doing something that they're probably not supposed to do, but ending up winning. We connect to those things, not only as Indians or as Americans, or as people who want to work in film, but just people who want to take a risk.
Yeah. Now, I found that so cool when we were talking that you were into photography and you just cold DM'd Boman Irani and sent your photography portfolio. Tell me about what was going in your mind, why him, and then the fact that he got back to you, that cultivated into a mentorship and then finally led you to working on the sets of Sanju. Tell me more about that process, because I think that's like the first step everyone's so scared of taking.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was, again, I'll credit my dad on this one. He was saying like, why don't you just, you do photography, and Boman, growing up before he was an actor, was a photographer by profession. And he was like, why don't you just send him your photos on Instagram? And I go, he's got like multiple millions of followers. And, I think he taught me, my dad taught me something there that is a very good lesson, is that the worst he's going to do is not reply, or he's not even going to say no. He's just not going to reply. Yeah. I said, all right, whatever. I mean, it doesn't cost me anything. I'll just send it to him. So I sent him, this was when I was like 18, and I sent him like 10 of my favorite photos. And I said, hey, I'm someone who wants to get into film. I'm a big fan of your work, And these are some of the photographs I took. And I think like 3 days later, I'd already given up hope. I was just like, all right, whatever. I sent it off. And about 3 or 4 days later, he replied. And he was like, hey, Karan, these are really good. I really like these a lot. And then he kind of went in and replied specifically to the ones he liked. And that was he had no reason to have to do that. And it ended up being a fascinating, like you said, mentorship and journey where I'm going to correct myself. I was actually 19 because I was in college at that time in San Diego. And when he replied, he said, I'm in New York right now, but I'm actually coming to LA in a few days. And he said, I mentioned I'm in the Southern California area. And he said, if you're free, why don't you come and let's have a coffee or something. And what I didn't tell him was I had a midterm that day in college. And I basically was like, look, I got to just take the risk here and skip my midterm and just tell my teacher I'm sick or something, my professor I'm sick, and just drive up from San Diego to LA a couple hours just to go have coffee with this person that I really admire. And so I ended up going to do that on some random Tuesday, and I drove up and we met for coffee and talked and talked and talked, and we just sort of got to know each other really well. I ended up spending that whole day with him. Just doing random things, meeting with his agent and all these awesome things. And, as a 19-year-old, you're just kind of awestruck by this whole moment. This is now a decade ago. And one thing led to another. And he's like, take my number. Let's, stay in touch. And then we met again a few months later in Madrid for IFA, the International Indian Film Awards. Just so happened to meet again there, and he sort of took me under his wing once more. And, in those moments, you're wondering, like, one, how could I be so lucky? Or what do I do with this moment? Or even, you're even questioning, like, why, right? Yeah. But he is just one of the most genuine, grounded people because of his upbringing and his roots, that he didn't become quote unquote famous until he was in his mid 40s. Yeah. So he knew he could relate, And so then when we were in Madrid, I got to meet his dear friend, Raju sir. And he also was someone that I looked up to quite a bit, amazing films.
Absolutely.
Three Idiots, Munna Bhai. And so we're in Madrid, and, no one there really speaks Spanish from the Indian film industry. So I spoke a little bit of Spanish to get by. My parents spoke it fluently to the house. So I became this quasi translator for everybody. And when I was over there, Raju sir needed some medicine or something light, and I helped out, and I ran across town and got this, and was, and then he kind of was appreciative of that. And basically we got to, just him and I got to meet one-on-one. And he said, I'm going to be doing this film in a year. We plan on shooting it in the US, and I'd love for you to be on as a production assistant. And of course, in that, you're kind of like, oh, this is amazing, right? And for that following year, I was like constantly following up with him, and I was like, what can I do? How can I be of service? Because I'm this kid that doesn't know anything about. I didn't go to film school when I was in San Diego. I was in business school. I just wanted to be of service, of help. And finally, a whole year or year and a half later, we got to make that film. I got to be a part of making that film for the USA schedule of the film in New York. And so that was my first time on a film set. So it's so crazy that a small little DM, a why not DM, sort of ends up helping your career start to take shape.
Yeah, I call it the butterfly effect. Like, it literally is one thing takes you to the other. Did you prepare yourself for anything before going to even IFA? Like, did you have an agenda of some sort? I think when you are given these opportunities, sometimes it's preparation meets opportunity, right? Did you just go out with an open mind, not expecting anything? Or did you have a significant agenda that you worked on and that kind of put you up and set you up for success when you went there?
Yeah, I'm not even going to pretend like I did. I think I just followed one of my golden rules, which, and again, I'm not like someone worth giving advice to, but I
don't think that's true.
I think I just wanted to listen more than I talked.
Yeah.
That's one of my few 3 or 4 golden rules that if you do that, especially in a room full of people that you admire, or even just artists that you want to one day make something with or similar to, if you just listen more than you talk, you will learn something or another, you know? And a few more of those rules that I have are like, listen more than you talk, run more than you walk. And that was another thing I did when I was in Madrid. I was like running around just trying to help people.
Yeah.
And not even thinking that, oh, there's an end goal to this. It's just, I wanted to be, I just wanted to be of service in a way. And that's what your first few years in film are, you know, or any job really, is that you just have to be of good service without wanting anything else in return or trying not to. And so no agenda, just wanting to just hear the people that I admire say the things that I wanted to try to learn from.
Yeah, no, that is such good advice and good perspective. And I think it's so cool that you got to not go to film school, have this drive and hustle in you, and then finally get to work on one of the best films, which is Sanju. What did you learn about high-level productions like that when you were production assistant? I feel like when you're in that role, you really get to see things from up close and get to really do the runaround. So
yeah, absolutely. So when we were doing you're a very good interviewer, by the way.
Thank you.
You were making me think of things that I haven't thought about in so long.
I love that.
You know, props to you. You got your like cards and everything. This is really nice.
Thank you.
When we were on Sanju, I got invited to be on like the location scout first. So that was in 2017, I believe. Somewhere around there. And it was winter at that time. And a few of the core people had come from India just to scout the locations that we wanted, that they wanted, I should say. And me being one of the only local to the U.S. people, I was like, you know, at that point, I was trying to put in a little bit more of that preparation work, you know, thinking of places that they would want to be or wanted to check out. One of the things I learned quickly was how much you have to take into account when you're making a film. Because people, if you see a good film, you will be like, oh, that's good. I see that this is good. If you see a great film, you won't think of anything else but how good the story is.
Yeah.
But to make that happen, to have a sort of fly on the wall effect or a slice of life effect, you're not thinking about the things that are going to be on the wall or the locations that are going to be here or the time of day that they're going to film this or how they're going to yada, yada, yada. So I remember we were scouting this house in White Plains, New York. And like I mentioned, it was winter. So when they were setting up the shot and I was just admiring how they were doing that whole little, this thing. If you're listening to the audio, I'm doing that dumb director thing that we all do. And they were looking at the house and right in front of it, there was this big tree. And they were saying, all right, we're going to shoot it this way. We're going to put a dolly this way. The car is going to show up this way. And I was so scared to say something, but I'm glad I did because I was basically like, hey, by the way, just so you know, that big tree is going to be like full. There's going to be leaves on it because right now it's winter. And when you want to film this in summer, you're not going to be able to see the house. And I was like so scared to even say that. But luckily, this was a crew that was really respectful of any insight. And, the team members on that, Raju sir, the first AD, Colin, who's now become a very good friend of mine. He just did Call Me Bae, which is a great show.
Wow. Okay,
he directed that whole thing.
Yeah.
So he stood up for me. He's like, hey, yeah, that is a good point. Good job. And so when we came back in the summer, I was like feeling good. I'm like, all right, I put my one insight in. Now I'm going to be like on the set, and the shooting was a whole different aspect. Have you worked on a film set before?
Just one, and it's a short film, so I don't think it's anything compared to what you did for Sanju.
Somewhat all the same, but yeah, it was maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
The craziest thing for me, I was not even 21 at that time, I don't think. Maybe, no, I was around there. I don't know. We get our ages blurred nowadays, but my very first job on any film set was to audition strippers for a strip club scene in Long Island City. Yeah. And I think I mentioned it when we talked first, but I remember being like, man, what would my mom and dad think about what I'm doing? Because literally it was like 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. And I'm over here like, I was told to do this. I wasn't just like, I didn't stand up for myself and be like, I want to be the stripper guy. No, I was like told to be like, all right, find these strippers in this strip club. And I was dealing with the owner whose name was Ivan. He was like a Russian owner. And have you seen Anora?
I have, yes.
So picture that,
Yeah.
all right? And I swear to God, I was talking to this guy, Ivan. He's like, whatever, I'm not going to do the accent.
Please do it.
No. He's like, whatever you want, I got you. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, come to my office. My heart rate is shooting through the roof. We go up to the office and we're like passing these strippers, go up to the office and there is like an AK-47 on the desk. And he goes, do you want to use this in the movie? I go, no, I don't think so, man. Ironic to the storyline,
exactly.
actually. And then he's like, do you want cocaine? I got you. I go, no, dude, what are you talking about?
You're living your own Sanju.
Yeah. It is kind of an ironic thing in that whole sense. But I just remember having that mindset of like, all right, whatever it takes. And I remember I had to ask one of the executive producers on there, like, hey, what kind of strippers do you guys want? And, this guy's dealing with a whole lot of other things. And I just remember when we watched the film finally, there's a lot of stories from those few days when we were shooting in New York. But when we were watching the film, I remember looking to the person next to me when I was watching it. And I was like, I found those strippers. Such a moment of pride, Yeah.
That's probably your debut as casting director.
Yeah, right. And, again, Mom, Dad, if you're listening to, I'm sorry, but you got to do what you got to do.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I know you have some more fun stories from Sanju. What was your biggest, like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is happening moment? And like your second, oh my gosh, I didn't know this happens in the industry moment?
Okay, to answer that, I would say one of the coolest things was when we were filming, I got there on sort of the first few people getting there. Like they came in two different convoys, and we were deciding who's gonna be arranging the transport for certain people, like the talent. And I think it was either Raju sir or Colin, who was like, "Oh, we need someone to pick up RK from the airport." RK being Ranbir Kapoor.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just both looked at me and is like, "Hey, why don't you just go?" And I was like, whoa, that was the dumb reaction I had at that moment.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that's how I responded. And I remember that next morning thinking I have to go at 6 a.m. to Newark Airport with the driver and go pick up, this guy that I've looked up to.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
he's Wake Up Sid. We've talked about it and all these amazing films. And so, we get to the airport and I'm waiting, we're waiting outside. I go inside to sort of, with like my little sign. And I hear a lot of people. It was an Air India flight. So I hear a lot of people, like making rumblings and trying to take photos. So I'm like, all right, this has got to be him.
Yeah.
So he comes out and he sees me with my little sign. And he comes up and he's like, hey, are you Karan? And I go, yeah. And he goes, oh, I've actually heard a lot about you. I'm glad you're on here.
Yeah.
And I go, how? Why? What?
Yeah.
Who? How did we get here? I thought it was such a cool moment. And he was just the coolest guy. I mean, such a really chill person. We have a couple of things in common. So I instantly, being a nervous 20-ish-year-old, brought it up. I was like, hey, we have the same birthday. And we're both fans of FC Barcelona. And we just ended up getting to know each other in the way where he didn't feel like this big guy. He could kind of be he could be whoever he wanted. And I think he liked that. We stopped on a gas station on the way back, picked up a couple snacks, and he could just be not being, bull rushed by everybody as he would probably be in Bombay. So that was a really cool, like, oh, this is a fun moment.
Yeah.
That I'll always remember.
That's amazing. And then did you have I did not believe this happens in the industry and like we're taken aback moment on the sets of Sanju?
I would say that I think that is easier to answer in hindsight, because if you're thinking about it now, that was in 2017 when we were filming. So that's about 8 years ago now.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's insane.
Right?
Yeah.
On that film in the New York schedule was RK, Ranbir Kapoor, Anushka Sharma, and then Vicky Kaushal, who is so big now. Yeah. But then he was not nobody really knew who he was. Yeah. And he was not even staying he was staying in a room that we were all staying in. And he was just kind of hanging out with the crew and just being one of the guys, really, or one of the cool people there. And now he's so big. And I think it's funny that Ranbir and him kind of share an whatever. So I remember we had wrapped up that day, and again, I'm just a production assistant on a pretty big set, but they were cool enough to invite me out to hang out after, and everyone was just hanging around. And I think that was a freeing moment for them, is that they realized they can just go to a bar and be whoever they wanted to be. And someone pulled me aside and said, just take in this moment, because it's a good one. It's a cool one. I don't know if that directly answered your question in any way, but now that I get to think about it 8 years after that, I'm very thankful for being able to have that moment. And also thankful for you to ask that question so I can go back down a nostalgic road again.
Of course. And it's like so nice to hear your perspective. I think all of us just get to watch these films on screen. We never know what the behind the scenes are. And for a lot of us who want to work in film, this is like such a milestone, right? Like you want to be on these sort of sets. But now in like 8 years of your career, you've gotten to work in different projects and different kinds of projects, with one of your most recent ones being I Want to Talk, that featured Abhishek Bachchan. And you now not only were a line producer, but you wore a casting director hat. You also were assistant director. How does one get all of these different roles under their belt without having formal training? How do you kind of build that trust with the production crew and land yourself in these sort of positions? Before we continue with the episode, I want to give a huge shout out to our official show sponsor, Sunblue Sound. If you've not heard of them already, they are an incredible audio production company that specialize in post-sound for visual media. They've worked on a range of projects, from ad spots to television series to films that have been streamed on Amazon, Tubi, and in film festivals across the nation. The coolest part, this episode that you're listening to or watching right now has been mixed and edited by Sunblue Sound. Ravi, the owner, is a dear friend of mine, and I can vouch that he truly cares about his clients and embodies their tagline, engineering sound for visionary creators. If you're looking for audio mixing or sound design, reach out to them directly at team@sunbluesound.com. That's TEAM@sunbluesound.com. Now, back to the episode.
I would say that the trust was a two-way street in that sense that to build the trust, you had to put in you have to get the results, right? That sounds like a Red Bull commercial or something, but I just mean that if I didn't do my job well enough, I started to accumulate those hats as we were making the film. I was really happy to be on that film, but I had started off just as a second AD. And then as we went on, I wanted to remember that output was so important. So if there was a hole to be filled, I wanted to be the one that was doing the work to find that out. For those of you who don't know, I Want to Talk is on Prime Video. It's very good. And it was a film that we made in the outskirts of LA. It's an Indian film industry film, but it's a very independent film. Like 80% of it is in English. It's with an incredible director, Sujit Sarkar, incredible producer, Ronnie. And it was really a grassroots making of a film. Sanju was a very go audition strippers kind of a film. This one was like, we're staying and we're just pulling permits as we go. We're just figuring everything out as we go. So to answer your question about wearing all those hats, there was moments where, all right, we're presented with the idea, and then we wanted to find the solution to it. Like, who's going to play Nancy? Or how are we going to film this marathon sequence? Have you seen the film, by the way?
I have not. I still have to watch it. Okay. I'm very much behind.
It's, that's one thing. You get caught up. There's a lot that gets released all the time. And even everyone tells me, you got to watch this, you got to watch this. I just get so bad at it. I'll just go back and watch, things I've seen a million times. But when you see it, there are sequences in it where it's kind of how I was saying, when you watch a film, you don't want to be caught up in the specificities of how did they do that. You want to just be living in that life. But on the filmmaking side, when there's a house that's supposed to look lived in, there's got to be someone that's putting the books there, or knocking this over, or putting the glasses in the cupboard, or there's got to be ways that you film these sequences to make it look like real life. Yeah. So it was all about working with this amazing crew, gaining their trust by putting in the output to just figuring out how we're going to make it happen. And, after all that, I think we did. We made a movie. That was cool.
I can't wait to watch it. I know I've heard great things about it. But during this process of, you doing all of these multiple things, you also built your production company, Broken Pieces Production. First of all, tell me does the name come from?
You're so good at this. Broken Pieces Productions was something that when I was in college, I started this concept called the Broken Pieces Project. What it was the idea was to take broken pieces of art and artists to put together something whole. For example, I wanted to sort of have this online art exhibit that lived on Instagram at that time, where we took a video or a photo that someone had taken, we combined it with a song that an independent artist had made, and we combined it with like a written word, either poem or something that someone had submitted, and put all that together and said, all right, we took all of these broken pieces of art and made it something, that was fragmented. We made it something whole.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you. And that was sort of the basis of just changing that concept of the Broken Pieces Project into, oh, this makes perfect sense. This is what I want my production company to be called and modeled after. And that's what I get to do. I'm so thankful to do with all of the people that I get to collaborate with on the projects that I do. There's so many aspects of making a film. You know this. You've done your short film, or you've worked on a short film. Rahul knows this. You have to trust your crew, and they all bring a piece of that into the final form of art. The camera crew, the sound, even the narrative. So it was all about taking these broken pieces of art and artists and making it something whole and presentable.
That is so beautiful. It's like collaborating even before collaboration existed. And I think that's amazing. But I think, where do you find your tribe of people? I think it's easier said than done when you know that there's going to be multiple aspects of people coming together. But it's also hard because you don't know who that person's going to be. They could have the best craft, but then they might not resonate with you on a personal level. And that's when it gets hard. How do you make sure that the people you're attracting are actually your tribe?
That is one of the challenges in and of itself, that when I was making my first project as a director, I was shit scared of the I didn't want people to look through me and see this guy that has not gone to film school, is not qualified to be a director. Not that there is any such thing, that doesn't know what he's doing. And I remember that when I was working with the people on that set, that was the ultimate thing I was so fearful of, because everything in life that is worth making is both timeless and a collaboration. So that was what I wanted to do, even with a short film. That even looking back, I wasn't so happy. I'm still not so happy with the way that short film turned out. But what I remember so much about it is, as we were making it, I went from that day one shot of being so scared of what are these people going to think about me or see through me, to that final shot where I realized that not only did I think I gained the trust of the people that were there, but I got to find people that I'm going to spend the rest of my life continuing to work with. So, and that was the biggest win of that film. And I think that comes from, I know trust is such a blanket statement, but I think that you do not know everything. If you think you know everything, you are going to make a miserable project. You're going to be a miserable person. So, for example, that first short film, 2019 now, my DP on it was Pat Anthony, incredible guy and now great friend, who just a few weeks ago, shot a music video for me. So I'm still working with him. And I shouldn't even say he shot it for me. We shot it together. And there's something I always believe on any set that I get to lead, is that, if you have an idea that's just going to be for the benefit of the project, just speak up. So that's the other thing, where trust goes both ways. If they feel confident to say something, then I feel confident and I feel confident enough in myself and in the project to hear it it oftentimes makes the project way better.
No, absolutely. I think that's like so well said. And while you were working on all of these projects, you also got into a lot of film festivals, which is huge. I think that step is also so nerve-wracking because you really don't know what's going to happen next. And a lot of filmmakers see more rejections than acceptances. Talk to me more about how independent filmmakers should approach film festivals and what was your journey like? How did you get your short film onto these circuits and what was your strategy like?
Well, you sort of said what I was going to say. You do get so many more rejections than the acceptances. So you gotta have to, and you sort of. I haven't gotten into the Sundances of the world or the Tribecas, and that's still a goal that I want to, go for. But you have to be able to take those small little wins for not only what they are, but even as milestones for the next thing. For example, for that there's a project I did called Wisdom Tree a few years ago. I was really happy with it because I said what I wanted to say with it, and I got to, put it together with people that I trust. And we got into the Manhattan Film Festival, which is a really cool thing for me at the time because, it was at the Village Cinema in New York. I got to invite a lot of my friends. I was living in New York at that time, and I got to be there. And I remember thinking when this was about to be screened, I remember closing my eyes and saying, oh man, it's not like this moment makes you a filmmaker or a successful one. It just means that you're on the right path, And that's such a hard thing to remember.
Yeah.
You probably tend to forget that so much, but think about the tangible and tangential things that you are doing. You've got, pictures of yourself over here and you got these mugs and you're doing this and you're working with people. You're in LA. So those are milestones that are concretized. Even if they're not something that, sure, you might get an award for it, and it might not make you your next film. But those are those moments that you have to remember that you're on the right path.
Yeah.
It's so hard to remember.
It's so hard to forget. Like, exactly. You're so right. It's so hard to remember. It's so hard to pause and be like, okay, I'm actually doing the work. I'm actually doing something. Often we're thinking of the result or the outcome. And when that does come, it's super exciting. But I think we should just continue doing what we're doing and forget about the outcome. Just put a lot of honestly into it. And then it sees success eventually.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. You should do this professionally.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Tell me more about how did you build your production house? A lot of independent filmmakers are looking to go into that path. What was that infrastructure like? And then how did you get your first client?
I think a lot of the market is so heavy.
Yeah.
Like everybody has a production company. That's what we joke about here, especially in Burbank or LA. But I think what separates certain people is if you have a unique selling point. I mean, that's like the business school mind of me talking. Yeah. But one of the things I want to tell people or clients that I specialize in is 1 to 5 day shoots. Which kind of narrows down the time frame. It's kind of obvious, even me saying it. When we're shooting a commercial, we're not going to spend more than 5 days. But what that sort of helps the client hone in on is that you're focused on a specific timeline, mindset, and output that you're going to deliver to them. I think really the success of any production company is low overhead, trusting the people you're with, and merging the two sides of your brain, because a lot of people, anybody who's running it is going to be an artist of some sort.
Yeah.
But anybody who's running it also has to, up in your head, shake the hand of the artist and the business-minded person. The person that wears the suit and the person that makes fun of the person who's wearing the suit. Those both, they have to be partners. And if they're not, then you're not going to, I don't want to say you're not going to be successful. Who knows? But I think it's really important to follow those three things and you'll find something.
Yeah.
The way I found my first client was not even my first client, but let's say, that's always like you're calling someone, you're taking a risk, you're doing it for cheap and you're saying, I'll build this. That's the step in finding the legitimized client. You have to put something on paper. For example, if you wanted to go and interview Zendaya right now, and you've somehow find your way to go and talk to her people, And they're like, all right, great. What have you done? Or who have you interviewed? Or do you know how to do a podcast interview? And you're like, well, no, I've never done it before, but I think I'd be good. No one's going to believe you.
Yeah.
It's all about output. It's an unfortunate truth in this, right? So by being able to do things as favors and on the fly for cheap and making it look expensive, I was able to then go to those legitimized clients and say, hey, this is what I've done. This is the vision I want to do for you. And that's how I've been able to, grow Broken Pieces Productions, and hopefully it keeps going.
Absolutely. That's solid advice. I know you've tapped into music videos, commercials, and then short films as well. How does one stay financially afloat when doing all of these things? I know we've had conversations where they're like, if you're doing film, like you should focus on films. If you're doing commercials, do one. But I feel like you're doing all of it and you're doing it very successfully. How do you maneuver through it? And then what does one choose when they're starting out?
Well, I think, I would say on the surface level, it's easy to say that, I'm doing good things, I'm being successful, and I'm thankful for the things I have. But also, I think it's a myth that you have to sustain yourself just through your passions. I know that that's almost a controversial thing to say, but I think that in order to find creative freedom, you have to find your way towards financial freedom. By that, I mean, whatever you got to do to pay your bills or to sort of take care of yourself in that way will allow you more time to write, will allow you more time to then go and if you're doing a 9 to 5, that will allow you to then focus on the 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. of your day. For a long time, for the first few years when I was starting the production company and getting to do the first few projects, I was working at Fox Sports, which was like one of my favorite jobs. But that was a job where it was a full 40-hour job. I mean, it was a full commitment of a job. And I just knew that if I wanted to do this, I couldn't be tired when I go home because there was more things I wanted to do. So I think it is a myth that they have to go hand in hand. I think if you're driven enough, then it will be aligned down the path. And there's a friend of mine, I'll give an example, but I won't give his name, is that he got really into like crypto day trading. It's not a world I know too much about, but because of that, he was able to just take his gains from that and then make a short film.
Oh, so, wow. Okay.
Maybe that's the path for him, and it worked. Who's to say what's right or wrong? I mean, Uber. I drove Postmates for a while when I was in college. So it was like whatever it took. And then kind of you stack the small wins, and then they allow you to maybe work your way towards the big wins, which hopefully are in our future.
Yeah. What was that moment when you fully transitioned to Broken Pieces and had to leave, decided I'm not going to do this 9 to 5 anymore?
COVID, actually.
Okay.
I will say it was like sometimes I don't know how much you believe in, let's say, there's this concept I always wonder about, which is free will versus if it's all written, is it predestined? And so when I say COVID, I was working at Fox Sports up until March 6th of 2020. And then basically the whole world started to shut down, and we knew that sports was going to be shut down for a long time. And so they laid off a lot of the writing staff. I was in the highlights department. So it very much, that department very much focused and was, you had to have live sports in order for that department to function. And so basically got forced out. And I remember sitting in my car right after that moment and being like, oh my God, everything has changed. I mean, what is about to happen? How am I going to take care of this or do this or grow? And so now, again, looking back, thanks to the introspective questions that you're asking, I get to sit here and say, that was something where the universe was saying, hey, it's now your time to leave.
Yeah.
Because I think the enemy of any artist, it's even weird to say that I'm an artist, I don't know. But the enemy of any artist is complacency. Yeah. You don't want to be someone who is just stagnant and just not focusing on your future. And you're just sort of you're reliant on what's right in front of you. And that's what that job was allowing me to do when I was in my younger 20s. But getting out of that forced me to say, all right, if I want to float, I've got enough to do so now, so figure it out. Yeah. Build the boat.
Yeah. until you're not thrown into it, you're not going to be able to swim. So just might as well go through it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. I love that. Also so inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing. We're actually going to move on to one of my fun rounds, which is called Spill the Chai. Nothing super controversial, but if you want to spill controversial things, please feel free to do that. It's 5 questions. Whatever comes to your mind first, just say that.
Okay.
First question. What's one thing that happened on the set of Sanju that would have never made it to the press junket, but completely changed how you see stars, sets, or the system?
I'm not going to say anything controversial because I have friends I still know from there. But maybe after we stop recording. Yeah. But I will say that one thing that I really just took away from that is if you get to see someone on a human level, you respect them so much more, and they respect you. And being able to just have conversations with Ranbir Kapoor, who's this mega star at the time and now, just being in a car together, talking about life. We were talking about when he was living in New York during 9/11. Yeah. That was something I won't divulge on, but I'll just say was like an incredibly inspiring thing that probably won't be told much. But I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah, no, that was good. This or that. Since you worked with both, who is the better actor, Ranbir or Vicky?
Oh man. Well, let's see them in this new film that they're gonna do together with Sanjay Leela Bhansali, and then you and I will have that conversation. I think it's called Love and War, right?
Okay, we're gonna come back to it.
Come back to it.
Oh my gosh, you're like fully trained for this. Third question. Complete the sentence. The wildest audition tape I've ever received involved. Please don't say strippers.
Oh, man. All right. Yeah, no, it wasn't that. But I did have this person for I Want to Talk when we were doing video things. It was just a scene of this guy shaving Abhishek's chest. Okay. And he literally came in on the video. So he enters into the video and he's shirtless. Mm-hmm. And he literally goes and starts to shave the sky. And I remember watching it and being sort of mesmerized by the commitment. And I wish I could have said that he got the gig, but he didn't.
But what should have you done differently?
Well, probably put a shirt on. I think it was too distracting, He had a lot of chest hair, and I can say the same thing, but yeah.
Okay, I love that. This or that. I love this question, actually. No hikes for the rest of your life or no films for the rest of your life?
Oh my God. You're an evil woman. No hikes for the rest of my life, okay. I suppose.
Oh my gosh.
I'll just put can I what if I had a treadmill and a iPad in front of me and I just looked like I was hiking my
Sure, I know that's not the same thing.
No, I couldn't do no films for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I allowed to ask you questions or are you going to keep going?
No, not on the podcast. Okay. Afterwards, sure, you can grill me. If someone handed you unlimited budget, full casting power, who is your dream crew? And what's the film you'd make tomorrow?
Oh, I really want to make a film where it's like an East meets West kind of a film.
Okay.
Imagine taking a great actor from Hollywood and imagine taking a great actor from the Indian film industry, from Bollywood, and making something like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's literally the podcast, East Meets West.
Exactly.
So I'm going to manifest that for you.
I appreciate that.
Who would you pick if you had to pick one star from each?
I think Anil Kapoor is a great actor. Yeah. And I hope that I get to work with him very soon. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who is it from Hollywood?
From Hollywood, I think Woody Harrelson is an amazing actor. And I would love to work with him one day.
What genre would it be?
I think like a buddy cop movie would be really cool, like Rush Hour meets Bollywood, something like that.
That would be comedic and amazing.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of those movies anymore, right?
Yeah, no, 1000%. Okay, well, that was the end of Spill the Chai. That was amazing. You seemed very media trained for it.
I'm over here sweating under these lights. I'm usually on that side of the camera.
But thank you so much for sharing that. We're moving on to the last part of the podcast, which allows you to reflect on your entire journey and also this conversation. So if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self?
If you do a podcast, don't sweat as much, maybe wear something lighter. No, I would say, honestly, find the people that you want to spend time with even when you're not working. And usually those are the types of people that you want to spend time with when you are working. It's not always the case. But especially when making films, it's like you're going to war with someone. I know that's a overstated, thing to say, but you are going to be in the trenches with those people. And if you don't like them, you're not going to want to work with them.
Yeah.
Or if they're not good people, you're not going to want. So find the people that you like, and then hopefully they like you too.
Yeah. Absolutely. It is definitely chaotic to be in the industry.
Yeah.
I know you kind of touched on this when we just started the conversation about legacy. And so with all the work that you've done and hope to do and continue to do, what's the legacy you want to leave behind?
I think the coolest thing about working in movies or in anything like even music videos, anything that where you get to record a story in a camera is that it is more or less timeless, right?
Yeah.
Like I think it's so cool that I can make something today and I could show my, someone 80 years from now or whatever, even 20 years from now or tomorrow. And I think that's so cool. There's not a lot of jobs where you get to create something timeless. Mm-hmm. It's little or big. So, what was the question?
The legacy that you want to leave behind, which very much is this, right?
Yes. There's like 5 films I want to make in my life. If I make those, I'm going to be happy, and hopefully I get to make more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's hopefully is the legacy I get to create.
Again, we manifest it.
We manifest. Yes.
And I know we spoke about East meets West, and this question, the last question that I ask all my guests, is truly focusing on the podcast. We all know that South Asian cinema is on the rise, but it's still kind of on the sidelines, right? Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give to the audience and to our filmmakers to get South Asian cinema to center stage, not just as a genre or a region, but truly as a global force of storytelling?
Well, I think to answer that question, I think we gotta look at a film, because it just came to my mind. We gotta look at a film like Monkey Man as a good example. Have you seen it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what's so cool about that film is that there is a diaspora that we need to acknowledge about the South Asian diaspora is something that we need to be able to record and be tell those stories. I think what's so cool about Monkey Man is that it takes that and it takes it to one extra level where he's not just a guy because he's Indian. He's just a badass.
Yeah.
And he beats up people because he's doing the right thing. And it's something that Dev Patel obviously is a master, artist. Mm-hmm. And someone like Jordan Peele, who was the producer on that, saw that it was just that. It could be watched by anybody and understood by many that don't have to be Indian. And we need to make films that we should aim to make projects that are both of those things, that can be the culture being appreciated, but also being normalized as we're just people that want to create cool and good things.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love that. I actually wanted to touch on this when we were talking previously, is that what I found really cool about a lot of the projects that you do is that it's not very like South Asian in its sense. Even like the crew doesn't necessarily have to be South Asian. And I love that because you don't necessarily have to put yourself in a box of, I'm South Asian, so I'm going to work with South Asian people and I'm going to create South Asian projects. Mm-hmm. I think goes back to what you just said. At the end of the day, that just happens to be our ethnicity. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, we're still just artists creating work. So no matter what walk of life you kind of come from, we're all doing the work together. Mm-hmm. And so I guess what advice would you give to people that are working not just in America, but are working with people internationally as well?
Mm-hmm. I would give the advice of just tell a good story. That's like the dumbest, most basic answer I could say that almost sounds so stupid saying it out loud. But when I listen, when we think about it, if you just have a story that's worth telling, you'll find the right people that are going to help you make it and tell it. And even though that, I've created things like a music video I just shared with you that's not at all South Asian in any way. I think it is still very important in this day and age in 2025 that we still give as many opportunities to people behind the lens and in front of to help equivocate the playing field. Mm-hmm. So I think that even if you're making something that might not be telling a story that is South Asian based, find someone who is working hard, their butt off, who is South Asian and wants to be a gaffer or a first AC, whatever. And bring them on. So then the playing field is not just one look, one gender, one ethnicity, or one type of person. In front of the lens and behind the lens, we should have all walks of life. And that point, you're going to be able to tell a good story with the most capable people.
Yeah.
Because we're going to get to that point, I hope.
Yeah, I love that. That was the perfect way to end the podcast. Well, thank you so much for being on here. It was an amazing conversation.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I was like, this is really good. You're so good at this.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this setup is awesome, and this was a great time. And
amazing.
This cup, next time, if I get invited on next time, hopefully we'll do some chai, and then maybe I'll turn my opinion around. You never know.
Maybe we both will.
Yeah, you never know. I like it. That's true.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Chai with Chams podcast. If this episode sparked something in you, go follow us, share it with your friends and family, rate it, and subscribe for more. I will see you next week where I sit down with another incredible guest that's bringing South Asian cinema to center stage.